Vanshakapadravascha kripasnabhevacha patitanam pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Nantakoti Vaishnaviniki Jai. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vrajajaranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajaranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajaranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajaranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajaranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai God Premanande Haribo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. We're continuing our reading of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, taking up where we left off recently, which is in the Adi Lila. And we're now on the Adi Lila, we're at text number 67. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Teen Gunavatari Ghani, Shaktavesha Sanakari Prithu Vyasa Muni. Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva are qualitative incarnations. Empowered incarnations are those like the Kumaras, King Prithu, and Mahamuni Vyasadeva, the compiler of the Vedas. Dui rupe hoy Bhagavanera prakash, eketa prakasha hoy areta vilash. The personality of God, it exhibits himself in two kinds of forms, prakash and vilash. Purport. The Supreme Lord expands his personal forms in two primary categories. The prakash forms are manifested by Lord Krishna for his pastimes, and their features are exactly like his. When Lord Krishna married 16,000 queens in Dwaraka, he did so in 16,000 prakash expansions. Similarly, during the Rasa dance, he expanded himself in identical prakash forms to dance beside each and every gopi simultaneously. When the Lord manifests his vilas expansions, however, they are all somewhat different in their bodily features. Lord Balaram is the first vilas expansion of Lord Krishna, and the four-handed Narayan forms in Vaikuntha expand from Balaram. There is no difference between the bodily forms of Sri Krishna and Balaram except that their bodily colors are different. Similarly, Sri Narayan in Vaikuntha has 4 hands, whereas Krishna has only 2. The expansions of the Lord who manifest such bodily differences are known as Vilas Vigrahas. Ekai Vigraha Jadi Hoy Bahurup Akhari Ta Bheda Nahi Ekai Sarup Manishi Vivahe Jaiche Jaiche Kaila Rash Ihake Kahiye Krishnera Mukha Prakash. When the personality of God, it expands himself in many forms, all non-different in their features, as Lord Krishna did when he married 16,000 queens and when he performed his rasa dance. Such forms of the Lord are called manifested forms, prakash vigrahas. Chitram bataita dekena vapusha jugapat pratak. Gunesh dwashta sahasram striya eka uda vahat. It is astounding that Lord Sri Krishna, who is one without a second, expanded himself in 16,000 similar forms to marry 16,000 queens in their respective homes. Purport. This verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:69-2. Rasotsava sampravrito gopi mandala mandita yogeshvarena krishnena tasa madhye dvayor dvayo. When Lord Krishna, surrounded by groups of cowherd girls, began the festivities of the rasa dance, the Lord of all mystic powers placed himself between each 2 girls. Purport. This verse is also quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33-3. Pravishtena grihitanam kante swa nikatam striya yam manyeran nabastavad vimana shata sankulam divau kasam sadaranam astyau sukya vratat manam tato dundu bhayo nedur nepetu pushpa vrishtaya. When the cowherd girls and Krishna thus joined together, each girl thought that Krishna was dearly embracing her alone. To behold this wonderful pastime of Krishna, of the Lord's, the denizens of heaven and their wives, all very eager to see the dance, flew in the sky in their hundreds of airplanes. They showered flowers and beat sweetly on drums. This is another quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33-3-4. Aneketra prakata rupasyaikas yaikada sarvata tat sarupaiva sa prakasha itiryate. If numerous forms, all equal in their features, are displayed simultaneously, such forms are called Prakash Vigrahas of the Lord. This is a quotation from the Laghu Bhagavatamrita 1.21, compiled by Srila Rupa Goswami. Ekai Vigraha kintu akare hoy ano, aneka prakasha hoy bilas tara namo. But when the numerous forms are slightly different from one another, they are called vilas vigrahas. Swarupam anyakaram yat tasya bhati vilasata prayinatma samam shaktya savilaso vigadyate. When the Lord displays numerous forms with different features by his inconceivable potency, such forms are called vilas vigrahas. This is another quotation from Laghu Bhagavatamrita 1.15. Jaiche Baladeva Paravyome Narayana, Jaiche Vasudeva Pradyumnadi Sankarshana. Examples of such vilas vigrahas are Baladev Narayana in Vaikuntha Dham, and the Chaturavyuha Vasudev Sankarshana Pradyumna and Aniruddha. Ishvarera Shakti hoy 18 prakar, Eka Lakmi Laki, Gana Pure, Mahishi Gan Ar, Vraje Gopi Gana Aro, Sabhate Pradhano, Vrajendra Nandana Jate, Swayam Bhagavan. The energies, consorts of the Supreme Lord, are of three kinds: the Lakshmis in Vaikuntha, the queens in Dwaraka, and the gopis in Vrindavana. The gopis are the best of all, for they have the privilege of serving Sri Krishna, the primeval Lord, the son of the king of Raj. Swayam Rupa Krishnera Koi Vyuha Tarasam Bhakta Sahite Hoy Tahar Avaran. The personal associates of the primeval Lord Sri Krishna are his devotees, who are identical with him. He is complete with his entourage of devotees. Purport: Sri Krishna and his various personal expansions are non-different in potential power. These expansions are associated with further secondary expansions or servitor expansions who are called devotees. Bhakta Adi Krami Koila Sabhar Vandana E Sabhara Vandana Sarva Shubhera Karana. Now I have worshipped all the various levels of devotees. Worshipping them is the source of all good fortune. Purport: to offer prayers to the Lord, one should first offer prayers to his devotees and associates. And that's what we're going to do, the mangalacharan 2 right now. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Adadhana Sridam Dantaridam Yache Puna Puna Srimad Rupa Padam Boja Duli Syam Janma Janmani. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. Namashishtam manamapi shachiputramatra sarupam Rupam tasyagrajam urupori maturim goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramoho Radhika Madhavasham Prapto Yasya Pratita Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi. He Guru Gyanadadina Bando Swananda Data Kuranaika Sindo Vrindavana Sinahitavatar Prasida Radha Pranay Pracharo. He Dinabando Kuranaika Sindo Kuru Prasadam Mayamanda Budhe Laksha Parade Bahupapagade Pada Padme Stumatisha Krishne Prata Sriman Navadvipe Dvi Netram Dvi Bhucham Gurum Varabhaya Pradam Shantam Smaretan Nama Purvakam Tvam Gopika Visharavestanayanti Kesi Sevari Karani Guru Nijapada Padme Dasyam Pradaya Kurumam Vrajakanani Shri Radhangri Sevana Rasi Sukinim Sukabdao Shri Guru Paramananda Premananda Palaprad Rajananda Pratananda Sevayamani Yojaya Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namine Shri Varshabhana Videvi Dayataya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Pravave Namaha Madhuryo Jvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudhapa Siddhanta Dvanta Harine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralampara Sambhude Padam Pujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sakchir Ananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Viravava Bomestam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratushe Namaha. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhaktashaktikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Suratau Pangor Mama Manda Matirgati Matsarvaswa Padambo Jau Radha Marana Mohanao Divya Vrindaranya Kalpa Drumada Srimad Ratnagara Singhasanastao Srimad Radha Shila Govinda Devao Prishtali Bi Sevya Manu Smarami Shriman Rasarasaram Bhivam Shiva Tatatastita Karshan Venu Swaner Gopir Gopinatha Shriyestunaha 18 Thakur Goriyaki Kariyachina Atmasat 18 Eracharan Vandontine Moranat Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vande Nanja Vrajastrinam Parurinam Abhikshnasha Yasam Harigato Gitam Punati Bhuvanatrayam Hantaya Madra Abala Haridasa Varyo Yadrama Krishna Charana Sparasha Pramodaha Manam Tanoti Sahago Ganayos Tayo Yat Paniya Suyavasakannana Kannamulai Vrindayai Tulsidevyai Priyayai Keshavasya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Shri Nishinga Jai Nishinga Jai Jai Nishinga Pralada Desha Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringa Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Glanir Bhavati Bharata Abhutanam Dharmasya Tadatmanam Srujamyaham Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chatuskritam dharma samstapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mami vaishyasi yuktvaivam atmanamat parayanaha. Sarvadharman prityaja mamekam sharanam vraja ahang tvam sarvapapebhyo mokshayishami ma shuchaha. Shushrusho shradhanasya vasudeva kataruchi syan mahatsevaya vipra punyatirtha nishevanad. Shrinvatam swakata krishna punya shravana kirtana hridyantaksto hyupadrani vidhunoti suhritsatam. Nashtra prayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyutama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Tada rajastamo bhava kamalobhadayaschaye cheta itera navitam stitam sattve prasidati. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavad tattva vijnana mukta sanghasa jayate. Vidyate hridaya grantis chijante sarvasangshaya ashiyante chasya karmani drishte vatmanishvare. Malihai karishe bijarupan shravana kirtana jale kare shichan. Tahan vistarita hoy pali prema pal ihan mali sheche nitya shravana rijal. Vairagya Vijaya Nija Bhakti Yoga Shikshartameka Purusha Purana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Sharira Dhari Kripam Buddhir Yastamaham Prapadye. Kalan Nashtam Bhakti Yogam Nijam Ja Pradush Kartum Krishna Chaitanya Nama Avirbhutas Tasya Patarvinne Gadham Kadam Liyatam Chitta Bringa. Ajanulambita bujao kanakavadato sankirtanai kapitaro kamalaya taksho vishvambaro dvijavaro yugadharma palo vande jagapriyakaro karunavataro. Chaitanya Krishna Chaitanya Gaurango Dvijanayaka Yatinam Dandinam Chaiva Nasinam Chasharomani. Raktam Paradara Sriman Navadipa Siddhakara Prema Bhakti Pradashchaiva Shri Sachinandanastata. Nityananda Vadhur Tentur Vasuda Prana Ballava Janavi Jivitapati Krishna Prema Pradapabu. Padmavati Sutta Sriman Sachinandana Purvaja Bhavon Mato Jagatrata Raktagora Kalevaram. Matsamo nasti papatma naparadi chakaschana parihare pilajjam me kimbruve purushottama yuvatinam yata yuni yunam cha yuvatau yata manobiramate tadvan maname ramatam tvayi pumauskalita paranam pumir eva valambanam tvayi chata paradhanam tvameva sharanam prabho. Govinda Balabe Radhe Prarte Twamahang Sada Tvariyam Iti Janatu Govindo Mam Tvayasaha Radhe Vrindavanadi She Karunamrita Vahani Kripaya Nijabharabja Dasyam Mayam Pradiyatam Nitai Nami Niche Namir Hate Shradamulyanam Dite Chere Nitai namineche namirhate sharamulyanam dite chere. Nitai namineche namirhate sharamulyanam dite chere. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Go Premanande Haribo. And we're back to the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. The last verse we read says, now I have worshipped all the various levels of devotees. Worshipping them is the source of all good fortune. Purport: to offer prayers to the Lord, one should first offer prayers to his devotees and associates, which we've done to some degree in our Mangalacharana. Text 83. Pratama shloke kahe samanya mangalachana. Mangalacharana. Dvitiya shlokete kari vishesh vandana. In the first verse, I have invoked a general benediction, but in the second, I have prayed to the Lord in a particular form. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanandao Sahoditao Gododai Pushpavantao Chitro Shandao Tomonudao. I offer my respectful obeisances under Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. Braje Jai Bihari Purve Krishna Balaram Koti Surya Chandra Jinni Donhar Nijadham She Dui Jagatere Haya Sadaya Gauda Deshe Purva Shaile Karila Uday. Sri Krishna and Balaram, the personalities of Godhead who formerly appeared in Vrindavan and were millions of times more effulgent than the sun and moon, have arisen over the horizon of Gauda Desh, West Bengal, being compassionate for the fallen state of the world. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Aro Prabhu Nityananda Yahar Prakashe Sarva Jagat Ananda. The appearance of Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Prabhu Nityananda has surcharged the world with happiness. Surya Chandra Hari Jaiche Shaba Andakar Vastu Prakashiya Kari Dharmera Prachar E Mata Dui Bhai Jivera Ajnana Tamonash Kari Koila Tatto Vastu Dana. As the sun and moon drive away darkness by their appearance and reveal the nature of everything, these two brothers dissipate the darkness of ignorance, covering the living beings, and enlighten them with knowledge of the absolute truth. Ajnana Tamera Nam Kahiya Kaitava Dharma Artha Kama Mokha Vancha Adi Shab. The darkness of ignorance is called Kaitava, the way of cheating, which begins with religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. Dharma projita kaitavotra paramur nirmatsaranam satam vejam vastavam atra vastu shivadam tapa trayamula. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni krite kimva prayer ishvara sadyo hridyavarujyate tra kritabishu shu shavis takshanat. Kudasai. Moskoshi shita kudasai. A little more down, please. Did somebody go into samadhi somewhere?
I think he's frozen.
Okay. So this verse, Dharma projita kaitavo tra paramo nirmatsaranam satam. Well, first thing I can tell you about it is a verse that we used to use to sell books. Because when Prabhupada was with us, he gave some instruction to Mula Prakriti, Devi Dasi. Prabhupada very much encouraged the women book distributors. He gave them special attention and said that you should You should be like a lamb at home, but a lion on the chase. Uh, and he said that the ladies were the secret weapon for the book distribution, Sankirtan movement, because people will trust a woman naturally. And so, anyway, Mula Prakriti was one of the biggest book distributors from the 1970s. And she lived in Los Angeles, and Prabhupada spent a lot of time there. So he asked her what she was telling people. And she told him what she was saying. And Prabhupada then said, here's something you can tell them. And he gave this verse, Krishne Swatamo Pagate Dharmaganadi Bisaha Kalanashta Dushamesha Purarnarko Danonita. That just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc., the Srimad Bhagavatam has appeared to give light to all the people of the world. So one should take advantage of it. And he said, you can tell people that. So when we understood that Prabhupada when Prabhupada indicated that we could use these direct verses, this is one of them that we picked out, and we would offer a book to people. Are we back? You can show the translation. Mission control.
Uh,
Did we lose our broadcast capability or our?
It's back, Mark. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Let's see the verse. We tell people, give them a book and say this book completely rejects all religious activities that are materially motivated and propounds the highest truth, which is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Srila Vyasadeva, is sufficient in itself for God realization. As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the Bhagavatam, he becomes attached to the Supreme Lord. And that's all you have to say when you hand the book over. And then people would say, well, how much is it? So this is a very good verse to use for along with Krishna Sadamo Pagate, the one Prabhupada recommended. But this one also, I found that people really like this presentation, that it completely rejects all religious activities that are materially motivated. Are we back to the verse?
I'm sorry, I think Balaram's having internet problems. But I can.
Okay, it's
Monisha, I gave you permissions to share.
All right.
Go ahead, share.
Thank you. 1 second. We have this.
We have a tag team. So this Kaitava is rejected by the Srimad Bhagavatam, and also here in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Kaviraj Goswami is saying the same standard for this Bhagavatam is present here in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is following in the footsteps of this verse. So that's funny. It goes right to the purport. There's no verse.
Sorry. I'll fix that right.
There must be an eclipse going on right now. Nitai namineche. So here we have the translation. The great scripture Srimad Bhagavatam, compiled by Mahamuni Vyasadeva from 4 original verses, describes the most elevated and kind-hearted devotees and completely rejects the cheating ways of materially motivated religiosity. It propounds the highest principles of eternal religion, which can factually mitigate the threefold miseries of a living being and award the highest benediction of full prosperity and knowledge.
That's very good. It even has a Jagannath picture on back.
Those willing to hear the message of this scripture in a submissive attitude of service can at once capture the Supreme Lord in their hearts. Therefore, there is no need for any scripture other than Srimad Bhagavatam. Yay! Purport. This verse appears in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2. The words Mahamuni Krite indicate that Srimad Bhagavatam was compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva, who is sometimes known as Narayana Mahamuni, because he is an incarnation of Narayan. Vyasadeva, therefore, is not an ordinary man, but is empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He compiled the beautiful Bhagavatam to narrate some of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees. In Srimad Bhagavatam, a distinction between real religion and pretentious religion has been clearly made. According to this original and genuine commentation on the Vedanta Sutra, there are numerous pretentious faiths that pass as religion, but neglect the real essence of religion. The real religion of a living being is his natural, inborn quality, whereas pretentious religion is a form of nescience that artificially covers a living entity's pure consciousness under certain unfavorable conditions. Real religion lies dormant when artificial religion dominates from the mental plane. A living being can awaken this dormant religion by hearing with a pure heart. The path of religion prescribed by Srimad Bhagavatam is different from all forms of imperfect religiosity. Religion can be considered in the following three divisions. 1, the path of fruit of work. 2, the path of knowledge and mystic powers. And 3, the path of worship and devotional service. The path of fruit of work, karma kanda, even when decorated with religious ceremonies, meant to elevate one's material condition, is a cheating process because it can never enable one to gain relief from material existence and achieve the highest goal. A living entity perpetually struggles hard to rid himself of the pangs of material existence, but the path of fruit of work leads him to either temporary happiness or temporary distress in material existence. By pious fruit of work, one is placed in a position where he can temporarily feel material happiness, whereas vicious activities lead him to a distressful position of material want and scarcity. However, even if one is put into the most perfect situation of material happiness, he cannot in that way become free from the pangs of birth, death, old age, and disease. A materially happy person is therefore in need of the eternal relief that mundane religiosity in terms of fruit of work can never award. The paths of the culture of knowledge, jnana marg, and of mystic powers, yoga marg, are equally hazardous, for one does not know where one will go by following these uncertain methods. An empiric philosopher in search of spiritual knowledge may endeavor most laboriously for many, many births in mental speculation, but unless and until he reaches the stage of the purest quality of goodness, in other words, until he transcends the plane of material speculation, it is not possible for him to know that everything emanates from the personality of Godhead Vasudeva. His attachment to the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord makes him unfit to rise to that transcendental stage of Vasudeva understanding, and therefore, because of his unclean state of mind, he glides down again into material existence, even after having ascended to the highest stage of liberation. This fall down takes place due to his want of a locus standi in the service of the Supreme Lord. As far as the mystic powers of the yogi are concerned, there are also material entanglements on the path of spiritual realization. One German scholar who became a devotee of Godhead in India said that material science had already made laudable progress in duplicating the mystic powers of the yogis. He therefore came to India not to learn the methods of the yogis' mystic powers, but to learn the path of transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord, as mentioned in the great scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam. Mystic powers can make a yogi materially powerful and thus give temporary relief from the miseries of birth, death, old age, and disease, as other material sciences can do. But such mystic powers can never be a permanent source of relief from these miseries. Therefore, according to the Bhagavat school, this path of religiosity is also a method of cheating its followers. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly defined that the most elevated and powerful mystic yogi is one who can constantly think of the Supreme Lord within his heart and engage in the loving service of the Lord. The path of worship of the innumerable devas, or administrative demigods, is still more hazardous and uncertain than the above-mentioned processes of karmakanda and jnanakanda. This system of worshipping many gods, such as Durga, Shiva, Ganesh, Surya, and the impersonal Vishnu form, is accepted by persons who have been blinded by an intense desire for sense gratification. When properly executed in terms of the rites mentioned in the Shastras, which are now very difficult to perform in this age of want and scarcity, such worship can certainly fulfill one's desires for sense gratification, but the success obtained by such methods is certainly transient, and it is suitable only for a less intelligent person. That is the verdict of the Bhagavad Gita. No sane man should be satisfied by such temporary benefits. None of the above-mentioned three religious paths can deliver a person from the threefold miseries of material existence, namely miseries caused by the body and mind, miseries caused by their living entities, and miseries caused by the demigods. The process of religion described in Srimad Bhagavatam, however, is able to give its followers permanent relief from the threefold miseries. The Bhagavatam describes the highest religious form, reinstatement of the living entity in his original position of transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord, which is free from the infections of desires for sense gratification, fruit of work, and the culture of knowledge, with the aim of merging into the Absolute to become one with the Supreme Lord. Any process of religiosity based on sense gratification, gross or subtle, must be considered a pretentious religion because it is unable to give perpetual protection to its followers. The word projita is significant. Pra means complete, and ujjita indicates rejection. Religiosity in the shape of fruit of work is directly a method of gross sense gratification, whereas the process of culturing spiritual knowledge with a view to becoming one with the Absolute is a method of subtle sense gratification. All such pretentious religiosity based on gross or subtle sense gratification is completely rejected in the process of Bhagavata Dharma, or the transcendental religion that is the eternal function of the living being. Bhagavata Dharma, or the religious principle described in Srimad Bhagavatam, of which the Bhagavad Gita is a preliminary study, is meant for liberated persons of the highest order who attribute very little value to the sense gratification of pretentious religiosity. The first and foremost concern of fruit of workers, elevationists, empiric philosophers, and salvationists is to raise their material position. But devotees of Godhead have no such selfish desires. They serve the Supreme Lord only for his satisfaction. Sri Arjuna, wanting to satisfy his senses by becoming a so-called non-violent and pious man, at first decided not to fight. But when he was fully situated in the principles of Bhagavata Dharma, culminating in complete surrender unto the will of the Supreme Lord, he changed his decision and agreed to fight for the satisfaction of the Lord. He then said, Nashto moha smritir labda, tvat prasada mayachuta, stito smigata sandeha, karishi vachanam tava. So just very telling, this point that Prabhupada makes here, that Sri Arjuna, wanting to satisfy his senses by becoming a so-called non-violent and pious man, at first decided not to fight. So when I was writing my book, Our Family Business, I interviewed a lot of devotees who had received books and had been transformed by receiving them. And one of them was a bhakta at the time, and he told me that he had at first received the Bhagavad Gita, and it was at a time in his life when he was not that interested. He was still pursuing other worldly ideas, and he left it at his father's house on the shelf. But after feeling some discomfort from the material world, he came back to his father's house, and lo and behold, his father had been reading it and suggested, well, why don't you look at this? Because you've been trying in the world and you're not so happy. So why don't you take a look at it? So he took the book, did this young man, and he started looking through it. And he started in the beginning where Arjuna was making his arguments about how the war was going to destroy the society and it was immoral, unethical, all kinds of points he was making on the platform of moralistic judgment or ethical judgment. And this Bhaktist told me that he was thinking, oh yeah, and then the instruction's going to come in to just forgive and forget and be nonviolent and move on. And he said he was shocked when Krishna said, no, you have to fight anyway. You have to go and do this fight. He said, that's when I knew this was for me, because this was not ordinary. He could understand that this is not just the normal flow of material thought, because that is to adjust to the various material ideas, even if they're ideas that have to do with compassion and so forth. The ultimate compassion is to liberate people from the bodily concept of life. And that eternal process has to do with surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His instructions. That's a shocking revelation to most people, because it's common that people who are affected by the lower modes of nature conceive of religion as something that has to do with adjusting the material world in certain ways. They don't think of it as cutting the knot of the material world and actually surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and thinking in a categorically different way, which is the way that the Bhagavatam thinks, which is cheating has to do with adjusting the material world, and real religion has to do with adjusting ourselves to the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When you do that, then you can actually be satisfied, because that's our nature, to be eternally connected to the Lord in service. And when we become detached from that and we make all kinds of other adjustments, we still feel uncomfortable no matter what we do. So we'll just continue in the purport a little more. So Arjuna then says he changed his mind. He changed his decision. That's a happy day for the soul. When the soul gets outside influence from a devotee, and the devotee says, wake up, here, read this, hear this. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Maya Mukta Jivara Nahi Swata Krishna Gyan. It's not automatic that people wake up. They have to get influence from the outside. Jivara Krishna Koila Krishna Veda Puran. That's why the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Shakti Vesha avatar, actually, Vyasadeva, made the Vedas, and that was to intervene in the lifestyle of people in the material world, so that they would wake up and take to Krishna consciousness, because otherwise it's not automatic, it's not swata. So when a living entity hears this transcendental information from the Bhagavad Gita, from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and then changes his or her decision, that means that they're thinking, I have to adjust the material world in such a way that I can have more happiness. But then they change their decision and say, forget that. I'm just going to follow the Supreme Personality of Godhead and I'm going to surrender to Him. That's a happy day. And I can remember myself in the process of getting interested in spiritual life and searching for the right path. I read many different books that I could find on spirituality. I devoured them practically. And then when I got the Bhagavad Gita, and specifically Prabhupada's purports, the Sri Upanishad and so forth, he said, when it was the Sarva Dharman Parityaja, that was in the Back to Godhead magazine that I got, that whole purport. Just forget everything else and surrender to Krishna. I can remember reading that and changing my decision, that forget all this other stuff. And also, I was a teenager, so there was a sense that, well, the whole world's out there. I could go that way. I mean, I remember seeing that in my mind's eye, that you're making a decision here. And Super Soul was, waiting. So what are you going to do, little buddy? And, and Prabhupada's case was so compelling, and the pictures were so brilliant, and the idea of spiritual life was so nicely presented. One of the points, I mean, there were several points, but one of them was about chanting, dancing, and feasting. And I was thinking, wow, that's really attractive. I'd never heard of anything like that before. I thought spiritual life meant negation in some way and merging and so forth. But one way or another, I can remember consciously making the decision that, yeah, I'm going to go this direction. And that decision is what changes everything. We have volition. We're not dead stones. We're agents of change. So the way that we organize our lives around hearing and chanting, so that we can constantly be aware of the fact that we have the decision to surrender to Krishna at every moment. And we make it. That's what gives us traction in spiritual life. It's that impetus to surrender to Krishna. Hear the message of the Bhagavatam, the Bhagavad Gita, the Guru, and submit oneself. And then I'm going to follow this path. Because there's a lot of decisions to make. And if you keep making them, trimming your decisions so that they fit into the plan of the Guru Parampara and of Krishna, that's when you get caught in the jet stream and you get pulled right back to Godhead because of that decision. Our decision is so powerful. We are creators. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yanti Deva Vrta Devan Pitrin Yanti Pratirvata Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja Yanti Mam Yajino Pimam. Little Jiva, you can go wherever you want. You're powerful. You can fly off to other planets. You could stay here and, be a little rickshawwala. You can do whatever you want to do. But he said, think bigger than that. I'm here. I'm the best thing. Everything comes from me, and I'm your friend. And I own everything. Don't you want to be my friend? Just come to me and think of me. And it's a simple process to do that through bhakti. It's the simplest process. In fact, as I've noted before in reading the 11th canto, when Krishna's speaking to Uddhava and he talks about the path of Gyan, the section is that thick. It's huge. And he talks about yoga, huge. When he comes to bhakti, I was surprised. It's a tiny little section. On Bhakti Yoga, he just said, be submissive and be really humble and see that the Supreme Lord's in everyone's heart. It's a simple thing. Make the decision that I'm going to be a devotee. That's such a good decision. Manmana pavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mami vaishasi yutvaivam atmanam parayana. When we bow down to Krishna, it's a simple thing, but it makes all the difference in the world. And if anybody sees somebody bowing down or bowing to Krishna at all, then they become inspired too. Last night, Akula and I were taking our walk and through the neighborhood, and there was some man, we didn't disturb his whatever he was doing, but we saw him from across the street, standing outside his house. He was facing east, so I figured he must have been some kind of Hindu or Vaishnava, but he was in pranams like this. And maybe he was saying Gayatri Mantra or something like that. But just seeing him like that, offering respects, inspired us. We felt like, wow, that was inspiring just to see that. So bhakti is based on the decision, and when you enact it by bowing down to Krishna, you just put your head on the ground. It feels so good. Like I give up all this elevationist stuff that takes so much work, all this mystic yoga. Boy, is that hard. If you read the Yoga Sutras, you see how hard it is to come into contact with Prakriti and merge into it so that you get these mystic powers. It's very difficult. It's definitely difficult in the corporate world. Everyone always complains. I work harder and they keep giving me more work, and then they, cut back on the pay and there's more taxes. That's hard work. Rickshaw driving, that's hard work. So, what's the easy part? Surrender to Krishna. Yeah, I give up. I surrender to Krishna. That means internally we make the decision, and then no matter what other kind of work we have to do in this world, we do have to to work to maintain some status quo. Everybody does. Krishna says in the Gita, everybody has to work just to maintain their body. But once you make the decision, then you know that that part of it is only just playing itself out. It's only superfluous. The main thing is that I've made the decision. I'm going to surrender to Krishna. And there's no more cheating. Cheating is what gives us so much trouble. The cheating starts with, I am my body, and I'm going to present myself as a perfect being. And that's really hard to maintain because it's hard not to make mistakes, and the body's always falling apart, and I'm always trying to hold it back together again, saying, no, I'm okay. Prabhupada mentions this, that he visited a friend in the hospital, has tubes coming out of every orifice, and said, how are you doing? He said, I'm fine. He said, this fine of the material world means that everyone's pretending to be fine, but there is no fine here. But don't worry about it. Krishna is there for us, and if we take this simple path of surrender, then we're relieved of so much suffering immediately, and then we have the happy occupation of just surrendering to and serving Krishna. Okay, let's finish the purport if we haven't. So Arjuna says, Nashto moha smritir labda twat prasadam mayachita stitosmi gata sandeha karishe varshanam tava. My dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. I am now firm and free from doubt, and am prepared to act according to your instructions. That's from Bhagavad Gita 1873. It is the constitutional position of the living entity to be situated in this pure consciousness. Any so-called religious process that interferes with this unadulterated spiritual position of the living being must therefore be considered a pretentious process of religiosity. The real form of religion is spontaneous, loving service to Godhead. This relationship of the living being with the absolute personality of Godhead in service is eternal. The personality of Godhead is described as vastu, or the substance, and the living entities are described as vastavas, or the innumerable samples of the substance in relative existence. The relationship of these substantive portions with the supreme substance can never be annihilated, for it is an eternal quality inherent in the living being. By contact with material nature, the living entities exhibit varied symptoms of the disease of material consciousness. To cure this material disease is the supreme object of human life. The process that treats this disease is called Bhagavata Dharma or Sanatan Dharma, real religion. This is described in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, anyone who, because of his background of pious activities in previous lives, is anxious to hear Srimad Bhagavatam immediately realizes the presence of the Supreme Lord within his heart and fulfills the mission of life, of his life. And now we'll take some questions to expand the topic and hopefully go more deeply within it, because there are many, many ears out there and you've heard different things, and when you can ask a question is like a can opener. It just opens a new can so we can look inside and find the contents. The lines are open also on Facebook. And we have the chat box, which I'm going to check right now. Okay. Here we have Radha Venkat Prabhu, who said, it is fascinating how authors such as Rupa Goswami and Krishna Das Kaviraj are quoting so many verses from so many scriptures. They were also constantly moving. They did not have Google and PDFs either. That's true, and it's interesting how... well, first of all, it's an important point. Shruti Smriti Paranadi Panchakshiki Vinimbida Aikantiki Harer Bhakti Rupata Yaiva Kolpate. That any kind of practice of devotional service that doesn't follow the mood of the Shruti, the Smriti, the Panchachiki Viti, etc., becomes a disturbance to society. So we've been trained very carefully in our parampara to refer to scripture. So when you say something, you should back it up. That's why we learn all these verses and where they are, because you look like a fool if you go out and just make all kinds of spiritual proclamations, but you're not able to back it up. So learn all these things, memorize the verses, know where they are, and be able to present them at the opportune time. And even if you can't memorize the whole thing, at least have an orientation to where they're coming from, so you can point to it. That's okay too. But that's vital for those who are teaching the Krishna consciousness philosophy to people. And Nana Shastra Vichara Naika Nipunosha Dharma Samstapako Lokanam Hitakarano Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanyakaro. The way that the Goswamis worked was to develop a cohesive understanding of philosophy by presenting the various scriptures in such a way that people would have a systematic process to follow in order to go back home, back to Godhead. And this is the duty of acharyas, is to present this so people have a boat to get on, they can follow, and that boat is the process that they present. So for instance, we have the Upadeshamrita. If anybody follows that, they'll be able to cross over the ocean of material existence. And this is called Mahat Kritena. It's the great path. And if you just approach that path, because the acharyas are so powerful, because they're authorized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then Krishna shrinks the ocean of material suffering down to the size within a hoofprint of a calf so you can step over it. That's how powerful the intentionality is of following the process given by the previous acharyas. And all that has to do with following scripture. Sri Madhava Mahotsava says, in your story, it seems like Krishna was using the boy's father as an instrument to help him to Krishna consciousness. Which story was that? I forget.
In Hare Krishna Gurudev, there was the story where he had the Bhagavad Gita with his father. He came home to visit.
Oh, yeah,
and
right.
His father said, "Why?"
Yeah, Krishna, I mean, he fulfills multiple purposes with any one activity or lila. And so, yeah, a lot of people, the books go out and they ricochet off of so many people, and they cause a merciful ring of circumstances, like concentric circles that come out from one point that you throw a pebble into a pond from. Yes, definitely. Nice point. And we have Aprame said, I was really hooked to the point of Kaitavo from text 90, and how as long as we are not associated to Krishna, even if we are doing good fruit of work, cheating, fruit of work / cheating, we are perpetually undergoing a cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease, combined with suffering in the hellish planets, feasting and enjoying our karma away in the heavenly planets, and finally liberation. Truly, from the perspective of the Shastras, we are like the cow going round and round tied to the chucky. In our case, the planetary system of the material world grinding away at the seeds to gain oil, our Krishna consciousness, Bhakti Lata Bij, is sadly only going further into the lap of Maya. I feel like in Kali Yuga, I only have the option to perform Yukta Vairagya, surrendering the results of our actions to Krishna while focusing on how to best associate ourselves to Him, even while involved in economic development and fruit of work. Aprame, you wrote all that? I mean, come on, that was brilliant. Sheesh. I'm impressed. That was very nice, almost poetical what you wrote there. But it was dense with really good points. Sudhir Madhava says, Hare Krishna. All glories to Prabhupada. Chitralekha Saki said, thank you so much for this lecture. It's fantastic, absolutely inspiring. Cheating has to do with adjusting the material world. Yeah, this idea that by adjusting the material world, it still has to do with this idea of lording it over, that I'm going to be the controller. And the idea that the Vaishnavas have is tate anukampam susamikshramanu bunjana evatma kritam vipakam hridvagva purvir vidadam namaste jiveta yo mukti pade sadaya bhak. That whatever entanglement I've already gotten myself into in the material world, let that be. It's going to burn itself out. I'm not going to attach myself psychically, emotionally to the actions and reactions in the material world by becoming a victim. And by part of victimology is that I ascribe the cause to some other entity rather than myself. I'll just bring it back and say, it is what it is. And it's going on because somehow or other I've engaged myself in this material world. And now I'm getting the reaction. And it's my own reaction. I made this bed, now I have to lie in it. This is the idea. Now this is my thing. But what will I do? I will worship the words of the Srimad Bhagavatam with my body, mind, words. I'll offer praise to it. I'll hear it. I'll bow my head before it and so forth. And meanwhile, as I'm going through this life and the various reactions are coming, which you can't adjust your way out of, in case you haven't noticed, there's a way that I am going to simply accept it as the Lord's mercy. And from this attitude of being, it's the opposite attitude of the victim. One inherits the kingdom of God. It's just handed over to you naturally. You become the good son of the Lord. So it's very, very important not to put oneself in the false position, the false predicament that somebody's doing this to me. I'm being oppressed by God or by others. And if one can get out of this mentality and put oneself in the hands of the Supreme Lord, say however you want to adjust it, that's okay with me. Okay. If on the Zoom room you want to jump in at any time, feel free, but I got to read Vaikuntha Nayaka Prabhu's thing because he's calling in from Mysore, the home of a Mysore pack. Dandavats, you mentioned the importance of Shruti Smritis. However, in our Vaishnava tradition, we do have the example of Babajis. Vansidas Babaji, for example, they are considered topmost Vaishnavas, but my understanding is that they were above the Shruti Smriti Panchachiki Viti. So how do we understand this apparent departure from Shruti Smriti being a prerequisite for devotional service? Well, notice what they do. So in the, for instance, in the Bhagavatam, we have Ahobhatashva pachato garyanya jivagre vartate namatubhyam te pusta paste juhuvusasna arya brahmana churnama granantiyete. Devahuti exclaims, and this is a verse quoted by all our acharyas, that those who are chanting Hare Krishna, they've understood everything. They've already gone through all of it. And what does Rupa Goswami say? Nikila Shruti Mali Ratnamala Duti Nirajita Pada Pankajanta. He says that if you know all the Vedas, if you know what you're looking for, and you're like a miner, like they mine for gold, what comes out of it, out of all the study of all the Vedas, actually, is the worship of the Lord in the form of the holy name. So if one has come to this point that there's only focus on chanting Hare Krishna, this person has already understood all the Vedas and come to this point. They are exhibiting what the Vedas say to do. In fact, even in the Kali Santarana Upanishad, it says Sarva Vedishu Drishyate, and it mentions the mantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Iti Sodashakam Nam Nam Kali Kalna Shanashanam. So it says Sarva Vedishu Drishyate. If you know what you're supposed to be looking for in all the Vedas, you're going to find that the Hare Krishna mantra is the culmination of all Vedic instruction. It's that worship and surrender to the Lord through His name. There are many different kinds of mantras. Some of them have bijas, and they have various packaging in order to chant the mantra. But the holy name is the active ingredient in all the mantras. Even in the Gayatri mantras, you'll find that there is a Bij mantra, there are other kinds of verbiage within the mantra, but the main point is the name of the Lord. So in the Hare Krishna mantra, you have all name. There's no covering. It's like a fruit, perfectly ripe. There's no seed inside, and there's no covering. You just eat the fruit. And so those who have understood that, and they're chanting Hare Krishna as genuine Babajis, with no other focus, they are enacting the very purpose of the Vedas. Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. In all the Vedas, this is what you're supposed to see. Okay, and then we have Dhanavari. I like the point that we read and tried to memorize some shlokas to give references or pranam to back up to back up what we preach to do on book distribution. Yes, please do that. Now, you may not have to present praman when you're on book distribution because, as Sri Madhava Mahotsava Prabhu will tell us, when he's at Venice Beach meeting people in swimming trunks, they don't even know what the Bhagavatam is or the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. You may not have to back up certain things. You may just have to speak in a way that is the words of the Bhagavatam, but translated so they can understand it. But when you start getting into spiritual circles where people are educated in the process of devotional service and how to speak, you have to be able to back up what you're saying. You have to give evidence. So get a degree in Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and Sri Upanishad and be able to quote from it. Right? Say yes. Thank you. It's important. Shraddha Devi Dasi said, thanks for yet another great class. Thank you for being here. I liked the take on cheating. Cheating starts with us thinking I'm not this body. So even before we cheat anyone, usually for material gain, we cheat ourselves. Did you mean that I am this body? Cheating starts with us thinking I am this body. Yeah, that's a big scam. That I'm a cat, I'm a dog, I'm a man, I'm a woman, and then we do this whole show and try to make it. We try to sell it. This is who I am, but it's a really false dance. So it's really hard to sell what we're not, and that's why there's so much angst in material life. Is because I'm trying to present myself as something I'm not. And when I decide that I'm a devotee, then that surrender and that presentation is sustainable. And Sudhir Madhav, yes.
Hare Krishna, I was just wondering, when you were a teenager and you were reading all the books and then you finally read the Back to Godhead, I don't know if you were raised in a certain religion or anything, but what was like the psychology of your transformation from maybe, were the other books personal? You went from I guess I was just assuming a lot of the yogi books are impersonal, and then you went from that to surrendering to a person so quickly. Was it hard to adjust in your mind, or was there something that clicked that just convinced you for good? I mean, one time Hridayananda Maharaj was calling it psychological atheism, and I realized that for so many years I was a psychological atheist, even though theoretically I accepted Krishna and intellectually it made sense.
Oh, well, thanks for asking. The background I came from was my parents had both been members of some church when they were growing up, but later on they moved away from it. So by the time I was born, I was the youngest in the family of four. There was no church, and there was no presentation, no spiritual guideline as far as you should follow this or that. I think my father came from a Catholic background, and my mother was maybe Episcopalian or something like that. Both some kind of Christian tradition, but there was not a trace of it in our home when I grew up at all. The only thing that was there, which was more like paganism, which is the Christmas celebration. But my parents were they were professors. My mother taught sociology and my father taught psychology, and they really did not. My mother used to look at religion as from a sociological point of view. Even when I became a devotee, the conversations we have, she was very interested in the Krishna consciousness movement and how it coalesced and how people interacted with one another. And my father looked at things from a psychological point of view. So I didn't get any of that. In fact, I actually had felt like I had a major advantage over my friends when I was growing up, because they all had to go to school, Sunday school. And I didn't. So I thought, well, how did I get so lucky? But then later on, somehow or other, it hit me that there's more to life than just this. And it was from some existential angst I had about the idea of dying when I was a kid. And then it started to manifest in big gaps. I started seeing the way people accepted things and they didn't question them really made me pause and think. For instance, vegetarianism. Around when I was 13, I started questioning this whole idea. I saw signs about people killing animals and eating them, and I said, this is crazy. And I came home. Anyway, it's a long story about the vegetarianism thing, but there were several things that happened to me that really made me think that this has got to be some kind of scam. And when I asked my parents about it, they gave the party line that certain animals are for this and certain animals, and they didn't really get into it very much. But I figured it out, and I said, "No mas, don't involve me in this thing anymore," which put me a little bit at odds with my family to start with, because vegetarianism was not very popular back then. And then I started thinking more spiritually, and then I got my brother had a book in his library in his room. In my house, it was called "Be Here Now" by Baba Ram Das, Richard Alpert. In fact, my father knew him, and also his associate Timothy Leary, because my father was a psychologist, and so were they, and he had done work with them when they were working at Harvard. And so there were these connections, and so I read it, and the book really opened my eyes to the fact that there was spirituality in the world. And then I started doing my own research and going to the library. I used to go to the Lafayette Library, where SKP so kindly, or somebody, put a full set of Bhagavatams a few years ago. And I used to check out all the books I could find that were about spiritual practice, and especially, anything. And the more and more I read, the more I became curious about why would I be praying to myself. That was the main thought I had, because there were all these prayers, but then the books would end up by saying, actually, you are God, you become God, and it didn't make sense to me. So when I read Prabhupada's Back to Godhead magazine, and it was so directly about surrender to a person, it seemed so logical and so natural that I got really excited about it. And that was my first reaction. It's like, finally somebody came out and said this. And to me, it was the unmitigated truth coming through. That's what I felt when I read the Back to Godhead magazine. All other things had some kind of obscuring factor that I couldn't get around. But when I read Prabhupada's articles and the devotees of Prabhupada's articles in the Back to Godhead magazine, it was just pure light and knowledge. So that's when I really dedicated myself to reading Prabhupada's books. My mother took me down to Berkeley, California, which is not too far from my hometown in Lafayette, and we went to Shambhala Books. And I went in there with my allowance money, and I said, whatever books you have by Bhaktivedanta Swami, and they had Bhagavad Gita as it is, Sri Ishopanishad, and On the Way to Krishna. So those are the three books I got, and I brought them home, and that was my mainstay, is just reading those books over and over again. anyway, that's my background as far as as far as religion or spirituality goes, there was a completely clean slate. So that was the atmosphere. And then my feeling was a relief when I saw that there was a personal relationship with God. It seemed to be a perfect fit to me when I heard about it. And actually, the first place I heard about it that really registered strongly was in the Back to Godhead magazine. There was an advertisement for the Sri Upanishad, and it had a picture of Lord Vishnu in the causal ocean. And it says that this ancient book says that actually God is a person. And I just kept looking at it going like, you can actually say that? Because it seemed like everyone was trying to avoid that point and say, no, it couldn't be that, because they just wouldn't be able to come to that conclusion by negating material existence and negating material form. You have to hear from parampara, from pure devotees, to hear how that's justified. And when I saw the advertisement, that's what really made my mind go for it in a
Thank you.
lacritous way. Thank you for asking. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Okay,
Krishna.
let's see if there's anything else.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
I have a question. So, in regards to the story you told from your book about the Bhakta who was inspired by the Bhagavad Gita because Krishna says to Arjuna to fight. So, the way I understand it is Krishna told Arjuna to fight because it was his duty to fight as a Kshatriya. But what's the message that we get from this example? Because I'm not a Kshatriya and I'm a Shudra, so how much should we fight in our day-to-day lives if there's injustice being performed? How much should we tolerate, and how much should we take the message of the Bhagavad Gita and perform our duty to fight?
Sure. Well, on one level, the surrender was to do your duty as a Kshatriya. So that was within the Varnashrama. But there's an overarching purpose that Krishna has in instructing Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, which is that Krishna wanted Yudhishthira installed on the throne because his purpose in coming to the material world is to establish the Sanatana Dharma and to elevate his devotees so that people of the world are not misled. And Yudhishthira is a pure devotee, is also a Kshatriya, so he wanted that Yudhishthira prevail in the war. So paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstapanartaya sampavam yuge yuge. The reason he comes is to lift up the devotees, establish them so that they can help everybody else be engaged in devotional service ultimately. And so that's the other overarching purpose. And when he's convincing Arjuna to fight, he's doing it because Krishna, that's what Krishna wants ultimately. And as far as our duties go, we should also have in mind that the ultimate purpose is that we're aligned with Krishna and his instructions. Sarvadhanaman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. So in the course of following whatever duties we have, and by that I mean somehow or other we have to live, whatever situation we're in, right? You have to live. So now, how to do that and stay connected to Krishna at the same time? And so ways of doing that have to do with giving away the fruits of your results to Krishna. And then he recommends practicing devotional service so that you can come to the point of spontaneous devotional service. So while we're still working in the world and obligated in certain ways, we should be inventive to find ways in which we can stay alive and at the same time stay connected to Krishna through giving away the fruit of our work, also cultivating Krishna consciousness through the practice of devotional service as recommended in the Upadeshamrita and elsewhere. And if you do that simultaneously, then naturally as you go through your life and you somehow stay alive, both balancing your work and around the idea that you're a devotee and performing devotional service, doing your sadhana and so forth, then you'll be able to make a success of your life because you'll remember Krishna even as you're working. And that's why when Arjuna was listening to Krishna, or when Krishna was instructing Arjuna, he said, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanu smarayudyacha mayarpita mano bhurir mami vaishyasya samshayaha. That he said, you have to fight, but therefore while you're fighting, he said, you should still remember me. And these are the three main ways that Krishna says to remember him, and that is that either you're spontaneously in love with him, and if that's not there, you should practice developing that spontaneous love. And if that's not there, do your work, but offer the result of the work to Krishna. And that will bring you to that stage gradually, step by step. Did that help?
Yeah, that helps a lot. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think you're doing it right. Okay. Let's see. Any other points? Oh, look, Bhumi's here. Bhumi Devi Dasi said, someone said to me that they feel resentful, that they are suffering so much for stuff they did in their previous lives and they can't and will never be able to remember. Sorry, but I was at a loss of what to say to that. Oh, yeah, that's a very important point, Bhumi. And that is that it appears that I'm a victim. All these things are happening to me. I don't remember what I did. I had a stark realization of this when I applied for my global entry about 6 years ago. And we were at Niagara Falls, which is on the border of U.S. and Canada. And of course, the Americans were really gruff and terrible people at the border. And the Canadians were really nice. That's an aside. But we had to go through all kinds of testing and background checks and everything like that. And I was almost ready to get my global entry. And then they called me into the back room and they said, Mr. Suchek, have you ever been arrested? And the only answer I could come up with was probably, because I've arrested him many times. And then, for Sankirtan, that is. And then they said, you have to be more specific. And Super Soul reminded me at that very second of an arrest that happened in 1975 in the Chicago airport when I first got there. And there was a fracas. And I won't go into the details, but I wasn't at fault. But somehow or other, I got arrested anyway. And the case, although it came out on my side in the court, it was never signed off on somewhere. There was a clerical error. So they told me I had to go back to the Chicago Police Department and take care of it. And I was surprised that they still had the paperwork from 1975. And all I had to do was sign a few things, and they had to update it, and then I got my global entry. However, I was thinking 1975 was like a past life. I had totally forgotten about that incident till that very second when that border agent said, have you ever been arrested? And then I said, probably. It all came rushing back. And then that specific incident came into my mind that, yes, that was the one they're probably thinking about because there was some complication around it. And so, we've done so many things and we don't have a full remembrance of them by Krishna's mercy. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarvasya chaham hridisani vishto mattak smitir jnana apohanam cha. He allows us to have selective memory because if we didn't, we wouldn't be able to be functional in this life. Because if you remembered all your, even not just your past lives, what even this life of everything you've been through. I mean, how many accidents have you been in? How many altercations have you been in and so forth? If you're remembering them all at once, it would be a lot of noise coming at you. You'd be psychotic. So Krishna allows us to be sane by letting us think about the moment right now and be in this world without being disturbed by so much memory. What to speak of previous lives, what to speak of millions of previous lives of memories. However, the important point here is, and what to present to people, is that memory comes in different ways. It's not just a specific recollection of an incident that happened, like I had when I remembered that it was 1975, I was arrested in the Chicago airport and so forth. And that, Krishna allowed me to remember that because I needed it to get my global entry. That's why he brought it back for me. However, memory comes also, there's 7 kinds of memory that modern psychologists mention. And some of them have to do with emotion. There's an emotional state that is considered a kind of memory that when we get in certain circumstances, we react emotionally to it. And that is a kind of memory because of all the things we've been through in our previous lives. And one very specific aspect of this is a way in which people have phobias. Phobias develop because of ways in which we've had interactions with the world in certain ways, and therefore we're afraid of certain things almost irrationally or spontaneously, whereas other people aren't. These are actually a conglomerate of the different kinds of memories that we have from previous lives and so forth. So one can analyze one's own state of mind. The most primary of all emotional impulses is that of being indifferent to God, and that I don't want to surrender. And you can go in a quiet room and sit with yourself and ask yourself, what's holding me up from surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead? There's some causeless unwillingness, and this state of mind is what's actually preventing me from moving forward in spiritual life. And so the answer is that memory comes in different ways, and one of them is an emotional memory, when one comes to this point of feeling that enough is enough. I've been in the material world long enough, and I've done it all. Even people sing it in songs. They may be subconsciously presenting this, but they're saying that I've tried everything and it never worked, and people sing the blues and they sing country western and all these things. It's just a memory of how the material world doesn't work out for them. And when that becomes very acute, and one gets the association of devotees and hears something from Bhagavad Gita and from the devotees, then the emotional memory can culminate in one saying, okay, I give up. I'm going to surrender to Krishna and take to this path. So, and just finally, it's not true that nobody can remember. There are people that remember past lives. Yogis can do it when they become really clear. It's mentioned in the Yoga Sutras, in the 3rd section of the Yoga Sutra, that those who are able to develop a sattva guna in their buddhi through the process of meditation, just as if you look at a clear pond, you can see all the pebbles at the bottom, each individual pebble. So in the same way, a yogi, through this mystic vision, which is actually just clearing the mind, is able to see every individual past life, just like an individual pebble on the bottom of a clear pond. And Krishna can also remind us according to what we need about what our previous lives were. Just like Gajendra remembered his prayers from a previous life, that's what he needed. And Bharat remembered his previous mistake. That's just what he needed. So Krishna's very kind, and he gives us what we want. And he'll allow us to remember what we need to move forward in spiritual life. Hare Krishna. Well, we fell short, as usual, in answering all the questions, but we tried. There's a lot more in there, but we'll save them and we'll try to take it up again at another time, because now it's 10 o'clock straight up, and we thank Srila Prabhupada for giving us that purport and all his purports, because that was a masterpiece, as all of them are, but this is a shining jewel. And aren't you glad that we got a chance to read that? We're very fortunate, very fortunate. So now we'll take some announcements about what we've won today. We've got Malini Devi Dasi and probably Jai Madhava Prabhu is going to mention something about our combined effort to give people the opportunity to not only take literatures but also to become part of our devotional community. Malini, what would you like to tell us today?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisance to Sarveshwar Prabhupada.
Fine to you.
Today is the last Saturday before we make an offering to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which is his disappearance day next Saturday. And we have been working for past 6 weeks to make some kind of an offering for him. We are trying our best. So devotees can use this weekend and this whole coming week to try their best to please Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur by distributing books, sets, or anything that would please him. And we have seen a lot of success last week. It's actually overwhelming sometimes to see how devotees are trying different ways. They're trying to reach their contacts, their friends' friends, different groups. So I'm hoping that it would please you and Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So just requesting devotees to try one last weekend. And we will have our calling party, ISV calling party, again at 2 p.m. We're going to continue this throughout the COVID situation. We are going to stop. So please join us today as well. And I have one more announcement, but if anybody would like to add something, they can go ahead in the meanwhile. Or Prabhu, would you like to say something?
All over the world, people are really confused about what to do in this situation. They're not sure why it's happening. They have a lot of theories. Some people have theories. Some people don't know. They're just trying to get to a more comfortable situation and get out of the misery of this thing. And people really aren't sure how to take advantage of this situation and make the most of it. A lot of people are trying. There's a outpouring in the world right now about adjusting things to a higher standard, so people should be more have more spiritual vision to see all living beings equally and not mistreat others and so forth. This is kind of a this impetus to like do something to make the world a better place. And so we have very specific information about how that can be enacted. It would be very helpful to the world for people to have something that's actionable, because there's only so far you can go with the impetus. You have to have some higher information in order to enact it. And the information that we're giving out is very important to the Black Lives Matter movement that's going on right now, because it's abominable the way people get treated, by materialistic, the dominating spirit. One person's trying to dominate another. Jivo jiva sajivanam. It's horrible. But how to get out of that permanently? You have to rise to a higher mode of nature, ultimately. You can adjust it and should be adjusted in whatever way it can, but unless there's a basis to it, a permanence through internal adjustment, coming to the point of actually being self-realized and seeing that living entities are all coming from Krishna and they're all spiritual, then it's very difficult to maintain over a long period of time. So we know what to do, and we've been given the mandate to do it, and by spreading the holy name and by giving this very scientific and practical at the same time information from Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, we're actually doing the real protestation against the oppression of the material world. This is the real revolution, make no mistake about it. So, put this in high gear. This is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur wanted to see, is the revolution. He wanted to see every street corner, every internet covered, to spread this knowledge. And this is how to do damage to the material nature and this materialistic way of life. The other things will come and go because they can't sustain. So be revolutionaries. Follow Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Try to smash Maya. It's a war, Prabhupada said. We're in a war. So get in the war room and do battle. And, send out these spiritual bombs as far as you can to everybody. And, we're nice and everything like that, but we don't take no for an answer. because we don't believe there's any solution from the material side. We only believe in spiritual solutions because we're all spiritual, so that's the only thing that's going to solve it. So go for it. And this is the last point. This is really important, what kind of statement we make, that what we do while we're on lockdown to show ourselves and the world what can be, how we're unrestricted in spreading the Krishna consciousness movement. We don't accept this idea that, we can't do anything, we have to wait. We don't accept that. We take it that this is an opportunity to do bigger and to show that we can never be held back no matter what situation we're put in. So please lean into this last weekend, and let's bring something to Bhaktivinoda Thakur and make him smile on us, and that's how we'll advance in spiritual life. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I'd like to share one point. May I?
Only if you give us that verse later.
So it's from the kids team, Guru Maharaj, from Tri Valley. Actually, sincere and sober presentation by our Geeta Priya. So they teamed up, Geeta Priya, Niharika and Abhijit. So they presented to they did 3 presentations and 4 presentations, and 3 have accepted. And the lioness came out of them. That is our Niharika. She gave 4 presentations and 3 accepted. So just want to share this with you, Guru Maharaja. So just at your comfort zone, sit at your comfort zone, stretch to your friends. That one extra nerve makes you success, gives you success. This is our success mantra. Surrender mode, sincere desire, strong determination makes you success. That is our success mantra. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity, Guru Maharaja.
I'm looking at these little squares on the screen for the Zoom, and there's a lot of spiritual energy coming out of that little square there that you're in.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaja.
Thank you very much, and our obeisances to your mother too. She did a good job. She brought us She brought the world a spiritual revolutionary. We can see that. I still want the verse though that you quoted earlier. You have to send us. Did you hear me? The verse.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Give us the verse. We want that verse. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, who else?
Hey, Guru Maharaj, this is Bhakta Alex.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Bhakta Alex. Jai, Badram Te.
One important point I realized after running out of people who I've actually known, who I have some kind of relatively strong connection with in the past, I've now just been messaging people who I don't really know. I somehow am friends with them on Facebook, but anyway, with those people, it's a little bit harder to get a nice, comfortable conversation going from where you can kind of pitch Prabhupada's books. But now with the Black Lives Matter thing going on, a lot of times I'm just messaging people and just being like, what do you think about what's going on? And they're immediately paragraphs, they really want to get into it. And then from there, it's much easier to have a nice conversation and then guide it towards that way. So I wanted to share that.
Bravo. Bravo. Well done. Very good. Very good. This is what modern day preaching is. It's finding out what the current is and then connecting, hooking on the Lord Chaitanya's message to that and let that go in. That's really helpful. Very practical. Thank you. Looks like you're out on the warfield there.
Yeah, we're setting up camp here on the porch. We're ready for battle.
Fantastic. Hey, in New York, you can set up on the porch, and everywhere is a Sankirtan spot in New York.
That's right.
Fantastic. Great to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Thank you.
Okay.
There's one more announcement that our Sankirtan devotee, Kripali Mataji, who went to North Carolina.
Yes.
She just got initiated this morning, and her new name is Kalindi Devidasi.
Haribo! Hare Krishna.
She's distributing many Bhagavatam sets. Even though she went to North Carolina, and she's a secret weapon. I don't know if I thought I saw her on the call.
She is on it.
Yeah.
Kalindi, are you on the call?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Congratulations.
Thank you, Maharaj. Please bless me that I can follow Prabhupada's instruction.
Are you in? Where are you now?
I am in North Carolina temple.
You're in the North Carolina temple. In the
Yes,
dome?
sir. Yeah.
You're in the dome. Very
Yeah.
good. And are you selling sets there?
I'm trying now.
Very good.
She sold like 7 sets already.
That's really big. And it's also a great inspiration to the community there because it's a really wonderful community. And they have a lot of Sankirtan devotees there. So your example is going to do a lot to enthuse them. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
इस सत्संग में हम लोग विशेष और श्री Prabhupada just wanted to give a quick update on Bhakti community, if that's okay.
Please, we want to hear this because book distribution is holistic. We want it as one whole. And the book goes, and then we want to bring as many people in to the practice as possible. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'll share my screen and let me know if you can see the screen. So a quick update on the Bhakti community Sankirtan. So since we launched 6 weeks ago, we have 59 members subscribed so far to the community.
Haribol.
Haribol. Haribol. I'm working closely with Malini Mataji and SKV Prabhu to also obtain how many books we have distributed and how many have been invited, so we can triangulate and make sure everyone keeps progressing towards that milestone. I do wanted to thank our Bhakti community ambassadors, those who are propagating Bhakti community to the newcomers. It's led by our own Kautuk Karnav Prabhu. He has invited 5 members and 5 people have subscribed.
Haribo!
Next is Vilas Manjari Mataji from Sydney. She has a big group of 100 plus people and she has invited 3 so far and all of them have joined. They all are relishing it. After the sessions, we get text messages how much points they are taking back to their some of their yoga clubs or even to their families and how they're applying it there. So they are really very thankful for how the messages are being simplified and practical. They find it practical in their life. I also want to thank Achyuta Bhav Prabhu from Maryland. He has invited 2 members from his own group and they both have joined as well. So people are getting joining from the invitation. So thank you all ambassadors for sending people to Bhakti community. A quick run of the program so far. In April we started Bhakti on, including guidance for life, the essence of Gita, sadhana on the spiritual practices. In May we continued on Bhakti on, including changing karma, what is reincarnation, 5 truths of Gita, 2-part series. And in sadhana we continued on how to create a sacred space in your home, bhakti lessons from the world, win with basics. And then in June we had Refine the Heart by Bhakti Practice, the absolute truth, and then 3 weeks to upgrade your bhakti morning and the power of importance and of enthusiasm. So like on a weekly basis these programs are coming in and people we are getting feedback. There are lots of good question answers too. If you come to the community you can see newcomers are asking questions, they are getting answered and they are really expressing their gratitude for all the answers which are coming in. So these are all the programs which have already happened and a newcomers invitation guide has been created. So that I wanted to quickly walk through. If you go to Bhakti community, bhakti.community/invite newcomers, then you can see this guide which basically contains a sample email which you can use. Like if you're sending through email, then there is a prepaid text. You can thank them for taking the books and introduce Bhakti community, why that community is. And there is a 3 short videos which they can click and play, giving overview of the community, a sample program, Bhagavad Gita program, as well as program details. So this contains the entire why Bhakti community and what are the various programs offered. So you can just copy paste this and just make, there are placeholders given, you can rename in newcomers name, what books they have purchased, and you can just quickly send it. So it's ready to go. You can just copy, change it, and just send it out. Thanks to Prana Gopika Mataji. Yesterday she gave a suggestion, like many times you send through email, but sometimes through WhatsApp. So if you can have a shorter message for WhatsApp as well, that will help. So I'll be adding that as well later today. So you can expect both those messages to be here. Also, once you send the message, there is a newcomers leads list. This basically to make sure we track who all we have invited and also how much maybe Lakshmi they have given. So this way we can determine if we have to extend the trial period. Instead of 1 month, we have to give them 2 months or 3 months. Based on how much they are contributing, we can give more a trial extension to them. As well as if after your follow-up message, if they have not responded, we can stay in touch on a weekly basis, just giving drops of nectar every week. Hopefully eventually they can come on. So that's the idea. So this is another way that you can help us out if you just put an entry here. So just want to quickly run by the progress so far, and those in the community, they are benefiting, and thanks to all the ambassadors for sharing this message with the wider audiences. We look forward to more and more. And if you have any questions or anything, please email hi@bhakticommunity.com, and we'll be more than happy to answer the question that you may have.
Bravo, well done. So bring people into the Bhakti community so they can be hooked in, and it's continually expanding with classes and presentations that will serve all their Bhakti needs. And from this way, we'll grow a larger and larger assembly of devotees everywhere, and that'll please Lord Chaitanya, and we'll also be able to expand the Sankirtan movement. Any last points, Malini?
Prabhuji.
Okay.
Blessings.
So 2 o'clock today, and then let's hear about the cooks for the day.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Today's prashadam was cooked by Bhaktivatsal Prabhu, Ananda Mataji, Hari Sankirtan Prabhu, Radhika Prema Mataji, Manjula Kanta Mataji, Malini Mataji, Shamalangi Mataji, Shama Karuna Mataji, Shama Bhakta Prabhu, and Padya Seva Prabhu.
Haribo! Regarding the opening of the temple, daily we're monitoring the information that's coming to us from the county and the state to find out when we're allowed to actually have assemblies. Right now, some churches are opening in different places, not in our county yet, but they're only allowing it to be outside and also social distanced and things like that. We do have a 3-layered plan to open the temple when we get the green light to do so. In the meantime, we've been accumulating whatever is necessary for the opening, including getting thousands of masks for those that don't have them when they show up. We already cornered the market on hand sanitizer when this first thing happened, because Hansapriya moved so fast and was able to buy it, or maybe it was Bhaktivatsal Prabhu. We also we have gloves and thermometers and all the kinds of things that we're going to need to allow people to come in, and it'll start in a smaller, simpler way, and then as we get indications, we'll open it up gradually more and more. But really, we're just following the most strict instructions that are coming down to us from the state authorities and the local authorities. And we are monitoring that very carefully, and we do have a clear plan. In the meantime, there's a lot of work going on in the temple, painting, repairing, little cracks here and there, and we're trying to get a lot of things done so that when we do come back in, that kind of thing, well, it'll look nice. And the deity worship and everything like that is going on very nicely under Ramananda Saka, Hansapriya, and others who are doing the deity worship, cooking, and everything like that to worship their lordships. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay. We're going to have now the Guru Puja. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Next. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is our Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadna Bando Mui Savadanama Te Jahada Prashade Bhavato Priya Jai Krishna Prati Hoy Jai Te Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Bo, 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 Hare Bo. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki, Shri Harinam Mantra ki, Shri Harinam Prabhu ki, Gaur Premanande.
Hari
Nita
Hari
Gaura
Bol.
Haribo, 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 Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privajikacharya Shrotar Shri Shriman Abhay Charana Ravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Shil Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privajikacharya Shrotar Shri Shriman Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Kuli Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Zakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gokupina Shyamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Jamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glorious assembled devotees. All glorious to the assembled devotees. All glorious to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo Sharidat Vijaja Jyotindriya Taheka Jive Pele Vishaya Shagare Dharma Diti Poyati Loba Musu Durmati Akidita Katita Sanshare Krishna Bodho Doyamo Kori Bari Jihojai Saprasad Nadilo Pai Shayanamrita Pai Radha Krishna Gunagao Preme Dako Shri Chaitanya Nita Preme Dako Shri Chaitanya Lika Mahapashare Govinde Namadamadi Vaishnave Punyavatam Rajan Vishvaso Navijaya Prasade Sarva Dukhanam Hanirasyo Pujayate Prasana Cheta Soyashu Dudipaya Pratishta Prayo Prabhukta Shraddhanda Sulankara Charchitaha Uchishta Bojino Dasas Tavamayam Jayemahi Bhagavat Shri Mahaprasada Ki Gaura Premanande Nitai Gaura Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Nitai Gaura Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo Hari Bo. Please come take prasadam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna, Hare Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so
Hare Krishna. Hare
let's have a big day today. Tons of books and sets, and bring in lots of people to the bhakti community. And Huh. Hare Krishna.
Please give your blessings, Guru Maharaja, to all
Oh
of
yeah.
us.
May you do huge today. May all the energy from your Vaishnava mother come in to this arena and inundate the whole world with Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. Could everyone please unmute for a second and just say Hare Krishna?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Rama. 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 Say Hare Rama, Hare Krishna.
Hare Rama, Hare
Rama, Hare Krishna. We are the Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Vachakopavishcha, Kripasnaveva, Pakitanam. Oh, pray, Manande, Hari Hari Bo.
Hari 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 Bo.
Hari Hari Bo.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ravi.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you very much for Hari.